Right now, someone is making you look stupid in an argument, and you can't figure out how. Maybe it was that colleague who demolished you in the meeting without actually addressing your point, or that family member who always leaves you feeling foolish, even when you know you were right. Perhaps it's that sinking feeling when you realize you just agreed to something you never wanted to do, and you're not even sure how it happened. You're not losing your mind. You're not being paranoid. You've encountered weapons-grade psychology that most people don't even know exist. The same intellectual combat techniques used to destroy careers, win elections, and shape public opinion for over a century are being deployed on you every single day. There's a German philosopher they don't teach in school, not because he was wrong, but because he was too dangerous to be right. While other philosophers built beautiful theories about human goodness, Arthur Schopenhauer studied something far more uncomfortable: how humans actually behave when they want to win at any cost. What he discovered was so disturbing that universities buried it for 150 years. But every politician, every media manipulator, every person who's ever made you feel stupid in an argument, they're using his playbook whether they know it or not. And once you see these patterns, you'll realize you've been using some of them on yourself. The first weapon is invisible but devastating. It's called the extension trap, and it's happening to you constantly. They take your reasonable position and stretch it to an absurd extreme, forcing you to defend against something you never claimed. You suggest working from home twice a week. They respond, "So you want to never see your teammates again?" You ask for one evening alone. They respond, "Oh, so you don't want to spend any time with me anymore?" You question a policy detail online. They respond, "So you hate democracy and want dictatorships." Notice the deadly pattern. They force you to defend against an extreme position you never took, while your actual point gets lost in the chaos. Humans are terrified of being misunderstood, so they'll abandon strong positions to avoid looking unreasonable. But here's the brutal truth. This trap works because we've learned to use it on ourselves. When you consider asking for a raise, your inner voice says, "So you think you deserve to be CEO?" When you think about taking a social media break, it whispers, "So you want to become a social hermit?" Your countermove is simple but requires discipline. Don't take the bait. When someone extends your argument to absurdity, simply say, "That's not what I said. Let me restate my actual position." Then repeat your original point exactly. Don't get pulled into defending something you never claimed. The moment you start explaining why you're not an extremist, you've already lost. The second weapon is more sophisticated. It's the Socratic Takedown, and it makes you destroy your own argument while they watch innocently from the sidelines. Instead of attacking directly, they become the harmless teacher asking innocent questions. That's an interesting approach. I'm curious about your thought process behind that choice. The words seem supportive, but the tone carries a hidden blade that makes you feel like you've made a terrible mistake. Then come the questions designed to lead you into intellectual quicksand. So you believe this demographic responds to emotional appeals. And what about the data showing rational messaging performs better? You scramble to explain, digging yourself deeper with each answer. By the end, you've talked yourself out of your own successful strategy. The beauty of this weapon is that the questioner never reveals their own position. They maintain plausible deniability while you defeat your own argument step by step. Questions feel safer than statements, but they're scalpels that dissect your logic piece by piece. You see this everywhere. Leading questions that plant doubt. Comment threads designed to make you defend increasingly untenable positions. Your inner critic asking, "Do you really think you're qualified for that job?" Break free by flipping the script. "I notice you're asking many questions but not sharing your position. What do you actually think we should do?" Force them to take a stance instead of hiding behind their questions. Watch how quickly they retreat when they can no longer manipulate from the shadows. The third weapon exploits a fundamental weakness in human psychology. It's called the data avalanche. And it works because your brain can't process information as fast as someone can throw it at you. They unleash an information flood. Well, according to the 2023 Stanford longitudinal study, the Harvard meta-analysis, the MIT computational model, plus demographic variables from 3 census reports, and the European Union Educational Framework Assessment. By the time they finish, everyone is overwhelmed. The original proposal is forgotten, and people assume they must know what they're talking about. But here's the secret. Most of these studies either don't exist or contradict their claims. It doesn't matter. Humans defer to apparent expertise, especially when they can't verify it in real time. When someone floods you with more information than you can process, your brain takes a dangerous shortcut. It assumes they must be knowledgeable. You encounter this weapon everywhere. Social media posts with dozens of unverified links. Sales pitches that throw statistics too fast to process. News segments that cite experts without giving you time to think critically. The goal isn't to inform you, it's to overwhelm your capacity for critical thinking. Protect yourself by slowing it down. That's extensive information. Can you point me to one specific study that supports your main point? Most Data Avalanche users crumble when forced to provide one verifiable source. They've been counting on your inability to fact-check in real time. We do this to ourselves constantly, overwhelming ourselves with research to avoid taking action. Collecting information as sophisticated procrastination. Sometimes the best decision is made with incomplete data, but we drown ourselves in analysis to avoid the risk of being wrong. The fourth weapon is perhaps the most insidious, because it attacks not your argument, but your very right to make it. It's called the credibility strike, and it exploits our deepest vulnerability, our need to belong and be respected. I'm surprised someone with your background would approach it that way. Notice the surgical precision. They never say your work is bad. They question your right to have created it. Other variations include, that's a very unique perspective. I guess not everyone had the same educational opportunities. Interesting that you'd say that, given your situation. In professional settings, I wouldn't expect someone in your position to understand the bigger picture. In social situations, that's easy for you to say. You don't have kids. In your internal dialogue, who am I to think I can start a business? I don't have an MBA. The weapon works because the moment you become emotional about defending your credentials, you've already lost. Angry people make logical errors, while their attacker remains calm and collected. They've successfully shifted the battlefield from the merit of your idea to the worthiness of your existence. Your defense is counterintuitive. Don't defend your credentials. Redirect to substance. Let's focus on the idea itself. What specifically do you think is wrong with the proposal? Force them to engage with your actual argument instead of your perceived authority to make it. The tragic irony is that we often deploy this weapon against ourselves. We preemptively attack our own credibility. We do their job for them before they even arrive on the battlefield. Now you possess knowledge that most people will spend their entire lives without recognizing. You can see the invisible weapons being used against you every single day. Do you understand the psychological combat techniques that have shaped elections, destroyed careers, and manipulated public opinion for over a century? Schopenhauer was truly heretical, because he forced us to confront an uncomfortable reality. University philosophers wanted to believe humans were naturally good and rational. He showed the brutal truth. We're naturally competitive, tribal, self-serving. We use these techniques instinctively, often without conscious awareness. But he also revealed something else. Once you see the game, you can choose whether to play it. You now have two paths before you. The first path, use these weapons to dominate every conversation, win every argument, never lose a debate again, become intellectually superior, strategically manipulative, psychologically untouchable. Many will choose this path because victory feels intoxicating. But victory at this game comes with a price. Your relationships become chess matches instead of genuine connections. People remember how you made them feel, even when you win. Each manipulation victory makes you more cynical and isolated. You become the person you originally learned these defenses to protect yourself from. The second path is far more revolutionary. Use this knowledge for recognition and compassion. When someone uses the extension trap, see the fear behind their distortion. When they deploy the Socratic Takedown, recognize their insecurity. When they pull the Data Avalanche, understand they might be drowning in information themselves. Maybe instead of destroying them with superior technique, you address their real fear instead of their fake argument. The person who wins every argument is the one who makes arguments unnecessary. Which of these weapons have you seen used against you? More importantly, which technique did you recognize in your own behavior? Comment now with the technique that made you remember a specific moment when someone left you speechless. But don't just name the weapon. Share what fear you think was driving it. Your psychological independence is your greatest rebellion. In a world designed to keep you reactive, confused, and emotionally manipulated, your clarity and authenticity are revolutionary acts. Every person you refuse to manipulate becomes someone less likely to manipulate others. Every boundary you set gives others permission to set boundaries. Every time you choose authenticity over warfare, you make it safer for everyone to be authentic too. Subscribe now if you're ready to see more invisible systems of control. But here's my real question. Are you ready to stop being played? And more importantly, are you ready to stop playing others?